Hello everyone, Gammatrap here. One word. This is going to be a tutorial on how to draw rocks. This is not necessarily a tutorial on how to paint rocks. The difference is that painting rocks is mostly about colors and values, whereas drawing rocks is mostly about line art and 2D flat style kinds of work. So if you're here for drawing rocks, then fantastic. I'll be making a painting tutorial for rocks sometime in the future, so don't worry too much about that. But seeing as we're drawing rocks, when I'm doing mine, for example, here, I like to try to keep a couple things in mind. First of all, rocks are made of layers and layers of compact material, so it's most common to see rocks that look like thick layers stacked on top of one another. Secondly, when rocks chip, crack, and break apart, the edges are usually jagged. There's obviously round boulders, but that just means the material holding them together wasn't bonded as strong or wasn't very compact, like sandstone. It's very soft and easy to wear down. And obviously, like river rocks, they're really smooth, but that's just because the river's constantly blasting them. But with standing rocks like these and cliff faces, for the sake of argument, these rocks aren't anywhere near any water and are made of stronger materials. So because these kind of rocks are more brittle, when drawing them, it's best to think of planes or flat surfaces. No round edges, and almost all of them are made of lines and just more rigid shapes. When starting a new rock, I try not to lift my pen off the tablet at all, or at least lift it off as few times as possible. I'm not too worried about screwing up, and I actually try to make my pen movements kind of random. If you spend too much time thinking about what you're doing and really try to plan what any of these rocks will look like, it not only slows you down, which I can't afford to do. I mean, look how many rocks I need to draw. But there's this weird thing your brain will do when it interferes, where whatever you draw just doesn't seem, natural. It seems kind of manufactured. Like my favorite quote, or one of my favorite quotes that I try to think about when I'm drawing this kind of stuff is from Prometheus, I think, where they're flying over this cliff and they see this straight line, and this guy points at that and he's like, that right there, that's manufactured. God didn't build in straight lines, which essentially means that when things are random, it tends to look a little more natural. So like when I'm drawing leaves, grass, water, rocks, and stuff, I just try to keep that in mind. But when I'm drawing rocks like these, for example, I try to keep a few rules in place while my hand's randomly moving. Jagged lines, connected shapes, and layers on layers. And I might kind of just guide my overall movements in a particular direction, like up and to the right or something. So you heard me say connected shapes. This is what you're going to want to try to do. All you have to do really is just don't leave any floating lines. And that's pretty much it. Just make sure every line is connected to another. It's like a glorified game of connect the dots, where you not only make the lines, but you also make the dots, Also, when you're drawing your random lines, you might have a slight curve or bend or something in one of them. Don't worry about that, because you can actually use that unexpected movement to add some more lines around it and turn it into this spot where maybe a chunk was taken off or something. Just remember to try and make sure it ends up as jagged, connected shapes. Also, you're probably going to want to get your big shapes in first and then decide if you want to add more cracks and smaller shapes. It's best if you have equal amounts of small chunks and big chunks, because if you just have big chunks, it won't look like it occupies enough space on the page. And if you just have small shapes and chunks and stuff with a lot of detail, then it looks like just kind of static and fills the space on the page maybe too much. Plus, it would end up taking a lot more time. It's up to you, really, in the end, how you want to draw your rocks. Just keep in mind what kind of rocks they really are. Also, just keep it random. Just connect the shapes and add the layers on layers. There's obviously a point where you can overdo it with the layers, but that point will have to be up to you. Try not to feel intimidated by this wall I've drawn, by the way. I know a lot of artists will see a bunch of detail like this and get a little nervous. Whereas others would probably just want to add more detail and really push it. But if you just relax and let your hand move randomly, right, your brain will have some free space to just, watch YouTube or Netflix or put on an audiobook or something. And by the time you're done with a few songs, your rocks are going to look just like this or even better. I'm being pressured to make more and more tutorials. So once I'm finished with this huge project, which I'm actually working on a bit of it right here, I'll be coming out with more for you guys. So don't worry too much. I'll also be making that painting rocks tutorial in the future. But like aside from color and value, the principles in this video still kind of apply for the most part. Also, I'm sort of revamping my Patreon. I'll be doing some projects soon and making some tutorials that will specifically just be for my patrons to show my appreciation and so y'all can get your money's worth, in my opinion. Maybe that's just me down talking my own work, but I don't know. Now, I'm talking about my Patreon, by the way, not Mylan's. You can find a link to both in the description if you're interested, but on that note, I would like to thank my current wonderful patrons, and if you would like to get on this list, then consider becoming a patron yourself. It really helps me out, and I cannot express how grateful I truly am to all of you. With all that said, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.